McFarland, and here we go. This is what I've been waiting for. Eric, please. We gave Henry Ford money to launch his car company. Ron, so, I mean, what are you talking about? You mean in 19 something, 05, we gave Henry Ford money? What's that got to do with?
But the government's been
now?
Involved in whether it was Hughes Aircraft and Howard Hughes and all the money that he had. The government has been involved in development of technology for years.
But in what form? Is it in the form of grants, that type of thing? Because I have
grants, loans, product development money.
Loans are fine, but when you start giving people hundreds of billions of dollars that you know they're never going to repay, GM is never going to repay that money. We are never going to get that money back in our lifetime.
Well,
Who are we kidding?
We're making an
There's
assumption.
There's a huge difference between that and a grant or a loan, which is paid back. I got a loan to go to college. I paid it back over 10 years.
Wow.
Huge difference between that and
Pedro says, hey, Eric, Ford taking a loan is like me taking a government subsidized loan to get my degree. We're both using it to improve ourselves and still have to repay it. Loans and credit is how our economy runs. Pedro, I will venture a guess that GM and Chrysler will never pay the loan.
I wrote a blog about that, and I respectfully disagree. I'm not so sure about Chrysler, but and you please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, GM has some really great brands like Chevy trucks, and Cadillac. So I don't know, and I think they're very strong brands, and I just can't see. And people don't buy companies; they buy brands. There's a very brand-oriented, and those three brands that I mentioned, I think, could in fact win out if they do downsize. So I'm not quite ready
Cadillac
to
just sailed to the top of the charts, number 3 in terms of initial quality, just announced just the other day.
But
you've got
we are loaning GM somewhere around $80 billion. Now, how are you going to pay it back?
You know,
it's not a question whether it's a good brand. Sure, yeah, they have Chevy and they have Cadillac, and the rest probably dies.
There's no question that they're faced with some stiff competition coming in. You know, you've got Chinese manufacturers, you've got Indian manufacturers. There's going to be
Ford,
some stiff.
Buy American that hasn't taken bailout.
Absolutely.
Ford.
So what you're going to see is a GM that's going to have to diversify, much like GE did. I don't see how
Can they pay it back, dude? Can they pay it back?
I don't see how GM, with all that money,
they used to diversify. They were involved in making of washing machines at one time. They had I think Whirlpool was part of GM. Was it what?
GE.
No. They at one point, General Motors.
Oh, General Motors. They made jet engines. Chevrolet was involved in a lot of different projects back in the early 20s and 30s. There's no question about that. But what I'm saying is that money, they can't pay it back under this current situation. They're going to have to change into a different kind of transportation company. There's no question about it.
Along with, they still have their union problems. They still have their legacy costs. They still have an unsustainable business model.
No, under this agreement, the UAW has to take care of that. That was the consolation prize for having this ownership stake. They have to figure that out.
Say that again.
All right.
The UAW has to kind of figure out their whole pension issues by taking that ownership stake. That's what was at stake. That's the reason they gave it to them.
What about a branding campaign where we do buy American, where every American buys a GM or a Chrysler, or at least considers that? Couldn't that be the recipe for a, you know? I mean, I would think. Look, I drive right now a Lexus LS. All right, I love the car. I did drive a Caddy. I loved it, the DTS. The next time around, I might just go back to the Caddy. Not because I'm dissatisfied with the Lexus, but if the Cadillac does the same kinds of things, and they were pretty comparable, I would say the Lexus has an edge. I would go with the Caddy.
Then you got a $3,500, $4,500 gas guzzler incentive to buy that new Caddy.
I think the way the car companies,
that was just announced.
I think the way the car companies get out of this is create a product for the younger generation, for the younger kids. Young kids love Caddies. When I was a kid, young people didn't own Caddies. You know, it was an old person's
Interesting
car.
you say that.
But they got to find a way of getting the young kids involved, because a lot of times you start somebody off when they're 19, 20, 21, and they become loyal buyers, and they might just carry that.
What's the number that we need to reach for these companies to start, at least stop losing money? Is it 10 million units a year? Is it 12 million? Is it 15?
Yeah, that's what they've geared down to, is 10 million units is the mark. They had looked at it from a 12 million unit standpoint, and that's when they got rid of Wagner.
We're at 9.5, right?
Yeah, right.
So at 10 million, these car companies start to
9.8.
make money again?
Yeah, that's the number, and that's where they figure they'll be by the end of the year.